Welcome to the Academic Framework, Module 4. The topic for today is grammar instruction for ELLs and for all. But where does this fit in our ELL framework for academic literacy? Let's take a look at our house graphic and find out. The foundational piece is always getting to know our students, their home language, their prior schooling, their experiences. Then we build on that with background knowledge and vocabulary instruction. Oral language is also very important as a foundational piece. Then we have our pillars: register, grammar, and genre. And finally, no house is complete without a roof: assessment. Before we look at teaching ideas around grammar, it is important to know, what is grammar? In a nutshell, grammar is the study of syntax and morphology. That is, syntax being the study of sentence structures, and morphology being the study of words and word structures. Often when teachers think about grammar, they think about conventions, such as punctuation. Then there are the parts of speech, of course: nouns, pronouns, verbs, etc. Let's take a closer look at adjectives. If you teach elementary school, you might be teaching adjectives as a function of the narrative. For instance, Johnny stepped out into the scorching sunlight. If you're teaching in middle school, you might be looking at introducing adjectives as a function of the report genre. For instance, the fearsome crocodile stalks its prey. Perhaps if you're in secondary, you might look at the word order of adjectives in English. The use of conjunctions in our writing is critical. The way we connect our ideas help to show our thinking. And so, depending on the genre that you're looking at, you might teach different types of conjunctions. For instance, in argument text, we use a lot of cause and effect conjunctions. Don't forget some of these small yet important parts of speech, like prepositions, interjections, and articles. You can always find fun ways to teach prepositions. Where does the cat go? Under, inside, behind the box? Try it with your students. Under the desk, behind the desk, and so on. How certain are you? This is what is reflected with modals: can, could, may, must. Subject-verb agreement is an area that many of our English language learners need to work on. Singular subjects take singular verbs, and plural subjects take plural verbs. The tricky part for our learners is that oftentimes the singular verb has an S on it, and the plural verb does not. A little bit counterintuitive, but this is something many of our students may need to practice. The teaching of verbs could become quite complex. However, what we really need to think about are, who are the students in front of us and what do they need? So for example, if you're teaching in elementary school, you might choose to teach about past tense when you're looking at a narrative unit, because stories are often told in the past. Or if you're teaching secondary, you might choose to look at active and passive voice when examining textbooks or biases in writing. It could be quite the meaty topic. Sentence variety is an important stylistic feature in writing. You'll find it in the curriculum and in many different rubrics, whether they be ELL or performance standards. So if we can teach our students explicitly the different types of sentences and talk about when and why you might choose them, this will help their writing tremendously. Oh, the wonderful opportunities we can give our students to play with language. When we teach these devices, we are teaching kids reading comprehension as well as writing skills. So now that we've gone over a few of the basics of grammar, the question remains, how do we teach grammar? The answer to this question is explicitly and contextually. What do we mean by these two things? Well, we want to avoid the whole language approach where kids will just absorb grammar. So we want to actually explicitly teach the concepts, not just hope that the kids get them. The other part of this is contextually. Let's consider which genres are we looking at? Are we looking at narrative today, or argument, or report text? Are we looking at response journals? And let us consider the grammatical features that occur in all of those genres and teach them as we're teaching those genres. Let's take a look at this example of a procedural text, a recipe. If we provide our students with a mentor text and pair that with inquiry, we can create really rich learning experiences. What do you notice about the sentences in this text? What do you notice about the patterns? What do you notice about the verbs? If students can piece together some of these patterns, it makes for much richer learning. Another grammatical feature of procedural text is sequencing connectors. Oftentimes in recipes or how-tos or science labs, we will have words like first, take the beaker in your hands, next, and so on. Teaching kids explicitly about these types of connector words can help them choose the appropriate words in their own writing. We hope that students will have noticed in the inquiry portion that the sentences and verbs are written in the imperative or command form. You can print off some practice pages. Here is one that I found online. But grammar doesn't have to be all about worksheets. Let's try to have some fun with grammar. What about a game of Simon Says using imperatives? And if your class is ready for the challenge, using imperatives and adverbs. Run quickly. Simon says, run weirdly. Could be some fun. Another genre that you might be teaching is argument text or persuasive writing. Convince your reader about something. There are many grammatical features in this type of writing as well. Usually in this type of text, we use the present tense, sequence connectors as well as cause and effect connectors, and modals. How can I teach about connectors in a more interactive way? Well, we can use sentence stems. Write out some sentence stems with some connector words, cut them out, and have students connect them. For older grades, one could even expand this to look at the different types of sentences, compound, complex, and simple. One can find many worksheets online, but let's try to use play to teach some of these concepts. Here are 3 games I found online that you might be able to use to teach modals. One is called Fortune Teller, the other is Guess the Job, and the third is Agony Aunt. In Fortune Teller, you can have students predict each other's futures. For Guess the Job, students can give descriptors of the job using those modals, such as must, or should, or might. And in Agony Aunt, you ask the students for advice. Make a statement like, I'm hungry, what should I do? Students can then answer, you should eat, you could eat, you must eat. Now you try. When you go back to your classrooms, what might be some ways that you can teach grammar contextually and explicitly? Consider, what genre are we looking at and what grammatical features does that genre contain? Also consider using play to practice, because play is the brain's favorite way to learn. We hope you enjoyed this video, and please watch our other videos on the same channel, particularly the ones about genre.